Praise God. We can get started. Firstly, yes, as a Christian, we should be concerned with the eternal dimension. Amen. But we live and function within the mortal dimension. We've got to make decisions about which political party we're going to vote for. We've got to make decisions of which school our children are going to go to. And if there's problems between our kids, we've got to arbitrate between them. Now, I don't want to be the arbitrator between the Jews and the Muslims, right? I'm an Indian by race and a Christian by grace. And I thank God for that. And I think that there are many Jews that are of Indian descent. There are Jews of Ethiopian descent, African descent. There are Muslims in Indonesia. There are Muslims in Sudan. They're different cultures. But they go to mosque, and every mosque has a Qibla. And that Qibla points to the Kaaba. And when Muslims go on Hajj, they kiss the black stone. Now these inanimate black stone kissing Muslims and these inanimate stone wall kissing Jews must come into the eternal dimension to be reconciled to God through Christ. And that is why I want to preach the gospel to them. But now they're in this mortal dimension and they're fighting over land. And they're asking us to give a comment. Okay? So at this stage, just now my video doesn't come up. So I'm going to play a video for you. Remember I said that in this section I'm going to give a political and historic comment, having looked at the scriptures very extensively. So I hope this video plays. Sound. Oops.
National affairs. I took many courses on the question of the Middle East conflict. Semester after semester, we studied the Middle East conflict as if it was the most complex conflict in the world.
I got to stop it.
It is probably the easiest.
Because you can't see it, can you? No. Yes, you can't see it. But my colleagues over here can see it. Okay. So what happens is I've got to close this presentation. There we go. Something is happening. Something good is happening.
When I did my graduate studies at the Middle East Institute at Columbia University.
Why isn't this showing Melania?
First.
The cable is in. This is in. Everything is in. What screen? Is there another screen? Sorry about that.
That's fine, right?
It should. Sorry, just a pause, please. Melania, what do I do? Come and help us, please. just reboot.
But if he can just tell us how long it's going to take to solve this.
Okay. Okay, let's just go with the sound then. Jabulani, my friend, you have failed me in this respect.
Graduate studies at the Middle East.
Okay, let's put it louder.
Columbia University's School of International Affairs.
Okay, Brian, you have 7
I
minutes.
took many
Yes.
courses
Still
on the
remaining.
Okay. Will you put it louder, please, Jabulani? Let's go. This will only take 5 minutes.
When I did my graduate studies at the Middle East Institute at Columbia University's School of International
This is Dennis
Affairs,
Prager.
I took many
can
courses on the
Google
question
the
of the
video.
Middle East conflict. Semester after semester, we studied the Middle East conflict as if it was the most complex conflict in the world, when in fact, it is probably the easiest conflict in the world to explain. It may be the hardest to solve, but it is the easiest to explain. In a nutshell, it's this. One side wants the other side dead. Israel wants to exist as a Jewish state and to live in peace. Israel also recognizes the right of Palestinians to have their own state and to live in peace. The problem, however, is that most Palestinians and many other Muslims and Arabs do not recognize the right of the Jewish state of Israel to exist. This has been true since 1947, when the United Nations voted to divide the land called Palestine into a Jewish state and an Arab state. The Jews accepted the United Nations partition, but no Arab or any other Muslim country accepted it. When British rule ended on May 15, 1948, the armies of all the neighboring Arab states, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Transjordan, and Egypt, attacked the one-day-old state of Israel in order to destroy it. But to the world's surprise, the little Jewish state survived. Then it happened again. In 1967, the dictator of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, announced his plan, in his words, to destroy Israel. He placed Egyptian troops on Israel's border, and armies of surrounding Arab countries were also mobilized to attack. However, Israel preemptively attacked Egypt and Syria. Israel did not attack Jordan and begged Jordan's king not to join the war. But he did. And only because of that did Israel take control of Jordanian land, specifically the West Bank of the Jordan River. Shortly after the war, the Arab states went to Khartoum, Sudan, and announced their famous 3 no's. No recognition, no peace, and no negotiations. What was Israel supposed to do? Well, one thing Israel did a little more than a decade later in 1978 was to give the entire Sinai Peninsula, an area of land bigger than Israel itself and with oil, back to Egypt, because Egypt, under new leadership, signed a peace agreement with Israel. So Israel gave land for the promise of peace with Egypt, and it has always been willing to do the same thing with the Palestinians. All the Palestinians have ever had to do is recognize Israel as a Jewish state and promise to live in peace with it. But when Israel has proposed trading land for peace, as it did in 2000, when it agreed to give the Palestinians a sovereign state in more than 95% of the West Bank and all of Gaza, the Palestinian leadership rejected the offer and instead responded by sending waves of suicide terrorists into Israel. Meanwhile, Palestinian radio, television, and school curricula remain filled with glorification of terrorists, demonization of Jews, and the daily repeated message that Israel should cease to exist. So it's not hard to explain the Middle East dispute. One side wants the other dead. The motto of Hamas, the Palestinian rulers of Gaza, is, "We love death as much as the Jews love life." There are 22 Arab states in the world, stretching from the Atlantic Ocean to the Indian Ocean. There is one Jewish state in the world, and it is about the size of New Jersey. In fact, tiny El Salvador is larger than Israel. Finally, think about these 2 questions. If tomorrow Israel laid down its arms and announced, "We will fight no more," what would happen? And if the Arab countries around Israel laid down their arms and announced, "We will fight no more," what would happen? In the first case, there would be an immediate destruction of the state of Israel and mass murder of its Jewish population. In the second case, there would be peace the next day. As I said at the outset, it is a simple problem to describe. One side wants the other dead, and if it didn't, there would be peace. Please remember this: there has never been a state in the geographic area known as Palestine that was not Jewish. Israel is the third Jewish state to exist in that area. There was never an Arab
We have
state,
2 minutes left.
never a Palestinian state, never a Muslim or any other state. That's the issue. Why can't the one Jewish state the size of El Salvador be allowed to exist?
Okay, so this is an issue that I think it's important to recognize, that we want to point pride and arrogance to the Jewish people.
To yourself.
I'm an open air preacher, so I'm sure you can hear me. Is it on? Okay. Okay. So let those states that don't operate in pride and arrogance be the ones to point. Right now we have a Saudi monarchy that most probably murdered a journalist. Right? Is that a righteous state? How about South Africa? Look at our leaders. Look at the corruption. Look at the theft of resources from our country. You can point even to America. There is no state in the world today that is righteous. But these friends of mine are demanding righteousness from the Jewish people. And if they don't have righteousness, they must just get out of the land. How ridiculous is that? Can we please apply that to every other nation? Then who will stand? No one will stand. So I'm dealing with a situation where the Bible clearly says that God has created nations. Number one. God also determined where this nation should be. There is no nation in the Bible and the Quran that has been directed to live in a particular real estate geographic space like the Jewish people.
Time is up, Speaker.
So give them a chance to live there. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be having about a 15-minute break. I'm just looking at the time right now. It's 5 to 5. So I'm thinking perhaps at about 5:15 we could return. Okay, 10 past 5. 10 past 5 we will return. So please be back in this venue at 10 past 5. There are refreshments on the outside in the adjacent room.